Good morning, all. Today topic is the complexity of manufacturing workforce. Uh, this is part of my PhD research. When I started my PhD research under ACC program 5 Human Robot Workforce, to see the diversity of manufacturing workforce. So when I read literature, there was a gap in the literature in manufacturing sector workforce diversity, even though diversity is a huge uh, sector who's doing so many researchers in different ways, but it says the manufacturing diversity is a little bit under study. So I was having a little problem with to find out real diversity in manufacturing sector and its subsectors as well. So that's the main motivation for me to do this analysis and find it out the complexity of manufacturing workforce diversity, which is I think important for everyone to see that findings. So before I start the presentation, I would like to acknowledge of traditional owners. QUT acknowledge that Turrbal and Yugara as the First Nation owners of the land where QUT now stands. We pay our respect to their elders, laws, customs, and creation spirits. We recognize these lands have always been a place for teaching, research, and learning. So even though most of you know me well, so let me introduce myself for everyone. So I'm a human resource professional. So I work apparel manufacturing industry for 18 plus years. And I was privileged to work in different ethnicity with different ethnicities, especially in African region, Kenya, Ethiopia, as well as the Asia region, Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka. So that gives me a lot of different kind of a sense of different ethnicities and different workforces. So especially the women-centric workforce in apparel industry. So at the same time, I was privileged to work as a diversity practitioner. So most of the key companies, so I have worked as a part and parcel of their diversity policies, procedures, as well as the initiatives. So while having this background, so I started my PhD last year, the January this year. So last year January. So my main topic is COBOT's intervention on workforce diversity in manufacturing industry. So as I said that, so my main motivation just to see that what is the real diversity in manufacturing industry and it is subsectors as well before I drill down the barriers and whatever the obstacles comes in. So for that, I conducted this detailed analysis of Australian census data to reveal the composition of Australian manufacturing industry and its subsector diversity. So there are two questions addressed through this analysis. How has the diversity of the Australian manufacturing workforce changed over the time? And how does it compare to the other industries and overall Australian workforce? So, and second research question is, what are the most underrepresented groups in manufacturing subsectors and how it has changed over the time? So basically to understand where the manufacturing sector is standing in with compared to the Australian workforce and where the subsectors are standing on. So the methodology what I have used the table builders in Australian census data. So Australian Bureau of Statistics census data. So basically, main data set I have used is in 2021, but eventually 2006, 2011, 2016 all data also I have used to understand the trends of diversity. So you know that the ABS data is a very complex data set. So while I'm using, so I learned the table builders. That was my main challenge. Thank you very much for my librarian and the data scientist in QUT who has helped me to learn the table builders. So then I have done the census of population and housing. At the same time, I have used the employment, income, and education, and census industry of employment by education, and the age and sex, culture, diversity, education. Those are the data sets I have used because it's very complex, comprehensive, and complex data set. To be really careful about that. What are the data sets you are using for? So the main literature gap which I have found is manufacturing sector itself, even though it's under study, manufacturing sector diversity, among other diversity studies, but the limited studies which I have done also shows that the manufacturing industry is a male dominant, and manufacturing industry is having an older workforce. So in my overall analysis also, it's similar to that. You can see the gender diversity, if you compare with the Australian workforce, is almost 1-to-1 in gender. So one female to one male, almost similar, 51-49 is almost similar. But when it's comes to manufacturing industry overall, not the subsector level overall, it's having a 70 and 30. So it shows that still we are 20%, not a small amount, the 20% male dominant in the industry. So which is a considerable level of question need to address. The secondly, when you see the generation, so you can see that there's a Gen Zs. So overall Australian workforce is having a 15.5% of Gen Zs, but manufacturing workforce is having a nearly 13% Gen Zs. So that also shows some gap. The other thing is, if you take the elderly workforce, Gen X and the baby boomers, so they are representing really high level, so 8% higher than the Australian workforce. So what it says to me, so women and generation S, Gen Z are underrepresented in manufacturing sector, and elderly workforce is having a trend to be enhanced. So the global research also says that until 2050, so it's going to be older workforce is going to be higher and higher. So whether we like or not, we have to have a strategy to acquire them to the manufacturing industry. So we can't ignore them. When it goes to ethnicity, it shows that very different from the Australian workforce. So it shows that we are having a very good ethnicity composition, but real reason is the migrant workforce. So the question comes in, is that the correct strategy to go in future? The migrant workforce is not going to be freely available and readily available. That might be a problem in future as well. So we have to be taking care of that, rather than we are enjoying with seeing that this ethnical diversity is good. It's another problem, might be rise in the future. So then overall manufacturing industry compared with Australian workforce, so qualifications is having a considerable level issue. So what it says that the graduate certificate diploma level and a diploma level people, with comparing to the orange color tab is the Australian workforce, and the green color one is Australian manufacturing workforce. So most of the manufacturing workforce is certificate level and secondary education level. This is par with the traditional manufacturing methodologies. But we are going with Industry 5.0 or 4.0. So the question comes is, this education qualification trend is par with our future manufacturing strategies. So especially we are looking for digitalization and the technology intervention and all. So this composition is enough. But under this our program 5, so there's a different PhD goes on to see that the future skills. So this is especially Jacqueline and the team. Jacqueline, her PhD, she's covering that where the future skills, how it's going to be, and how the education institute can help on that. But here I just want to highlight that this composition is a question mark for future Industry 5.0 or the future Industry 5.0 or advanced manufacturing demands. So the other interesting finding is when I go to see that the proportion of full-time and part-time employment, there's a very interesting finding here. Manufacturing sector provides 75% of permanent jobs. So more or less people will say that, okay, permanent jobs are really good. It's beautiful to have a 75% of permanent jobs. But when we compare the Gen Z employees, it represents the greater number in accommodation and retail sectors. So both these sectors are offering more part-time jobs. So there's a point us to be think about that. Once they join to a part-time job, they might go and settle on the same sector rather than changing their sector. So are we having a strategy for attract them in the very initial stage of them whether they are being in undergrad level or whether they are being in a different professional levels. So initial levels, are we going to attract them? Because there's a fight in the industries how we are going to get the new generation, new blood to the industries as much as early. So in that sense, and representation of the Gen Zs and the Gen X and Y, we can see that there is 75% of the more stable jobs, more towards the people who are stabilizing there. So the point to be think about, manufacturing offers more than 75 permanent jobs with the Gen Z representing 13% less. So there might be good research area to be open up with this analysis. So you can see 59%, 50% in retail and accommodation sectors are giving the opportunity for the casual jobs. So with the thinking of especially the now not only the Gen Zs, so alpha generation is supposed to come to the industry. So are they going to do the permanent jobs? Are they willing to do casual jobs? So that's also might be an area we have to think about. Then when it comes to the complexity of manufacturing sector, so I just want to highlight this. As per the 2021 ABS data, it says the manufacturing is a sector who's having 16 subsectors. So we compare to all other sectors, so transport and postal is having 9, all other sectors having 3 to 8 subsectors. So manufacturing is the most diversified sector, 16 subsectors, which is a little bit complex than the expected level. So the problem after overall analysis comes in do the manufacturing subsector shows the similar composition. So even though all the research up to now happening with this overall trend, overall compositions, but subsector level is the same composition. Some of the findings you might be wonder. So let me go to the gender diversity. So keep the all respect of the different gender identities. Currently, the most of the gender diversity happens in the male and female categories. So while having the respect to all different genders, so ABS, even though they collect the data on different gender categories, but for this employment base, they have only collected data on male and female base. So I'm using that data. So while keeping the recognition of all different genders, so the analysis happened on the male and female workforce. So if you see the trend of male and female ratios, so you can see that the total workforce from 2006 to 2021, 15 years, so it has come to a 1-to-1 in Australian workforce, as I said. But you can see the growth of manufacturing 0.36 to 0.42. So still female representation is going very slow. This is happening after many initiatives, many strategies, many initiatives and different kind of efforts. So we have to think that whether the slow growth impact the future skill requirement of the manufacturing industry. So digital and technological skills, can we get through these slow diversity improvements, or do we want to go for a drastically different on the strategies? So there's something to think about that. Are we going to strategize in the higher level, or do we want to strategize in the subsector level? So when it's go to the inter-industry analysis, you can see there are 3 kind of things I have analyzed as female dominant, gender balance, and the male dominant industries. So you can see that the only 4 sectors perform worse than manufacturing on the gender ratios. So that's construction, mining, transport, and electricity. So manufacturing sector is among the male dominant sector. So among that also, manufacturing sector is in the worst level. So while maintaining some of the industries are really female dominant, so Australian workforce is 1-to-1. You can see that among industries it's not equal. So when we go to health, education, retail industries, high female employment can be seen there. So overall, we can see 1-on-1, but when it go to the different levels, we can see how it's complex is. So does it improve the version at the subsector level or not? That's the question comes in. So when it goes to the 2011 to 2021, the industries can see that there are very slow growth among the industries. So the industries who are having the female workforce, they continuously encourage the female workforce, and people who are not having the male workforce, it's also, so the diversity is happening very low level. So does it have, so it shows that does it have an industry specific barriers to gender diversity? So when it goes, so this is the most important part of it. So even though female male ratio shows the 0.42, so among 16 subsectors, you can see the textile industry is on the highest domain of female. That's having a reason because of the lower wages and the attraction of female kind of a skills. So keeping that away, so other 15 sectors, only food, chemical, printing, food, basic chemical, and the printing sectors, and the beverage. These are the only 4 sectors above the industry for 0.42 female male ratio. Those are the above. Majority is below that. So what it says that textile industry has minimized to show that the real impact of the other industries. So if you see that when it's go the transport equipment manufacturing, wood product manufacturing, non-metallic manufacturing, and fabricated metal product manufacturing, those are really, really low level of female representation. So it's very important to see that does it have subsector specific barriers to gender diversity? So rather than you are seeing the manufacturing as a whole sector, so if you go to the subsectors and see that whether they have the different kind of a barriers as entering, because even though we have taken off the manufacturing sector level of barriers, it might be not getting impact of the subsector level. So we have to think about that as a research question. So when it goes to the generation diversity, so just to give an overview of that, so Gen Zs are people who were who birth year is 97 to 2012, and Alpha is coming after 2013. So and Gen Y currently in the industry 1981 to 1996, and Gen X is 1965 to 1980, and baby boomers 46 to 1964. So there are some other sector called the silent gender, which are above the 1946, still having some of the sectors, especially in the agriculture. So so when it gets to generation diversity, you can see the comparison with the 2011 to 2021, the 10 years. So the what figures showing us is manufacturing sector Gen Z's was in 14%, it has reduced to the 13%. So it came down after all initiatives. After 10 years, it has down for another 1%. And you can see that the Gens Y's and X are stagnating somewhere in 36%. And when it's come to baby boomers, there's a huge gap from 8% to 12.3%. This is a considerable level of factor we have to think about. So with the current composition, we can see a trend of older generation, especially baby boomers being in. So they might be continuing in the industry. So how are we going to technology, how we can use the technology for them to be helped, their safety and their ergonomic issues and all the issues currently they are facing on, we have to be think about on that. So even though while we are focusing on Gen Z's attraction, the same time we have to consider about that, because we are not able to, as I said, that until 2015, 50, so there's a trend on the global. And the same time, what the literature says that we have to retrain 50% of the manufacturing workforce when it's come to 2050. So it's a huge task. So because the manufacturing sector is going to change their technological approach and digital approach, and also these compositions is very much important for them as well. So the problem is, does it have industry-specific barriers for new generation as well as the continuation of older generation? Also, another area to think about. So when it goes to Gen Z, Gen Y, Gen X, and BB on the subsector level, So Australian manufacturing industry is 13% and the Australian workforce is on 15% agencies. But we can see some of the industries like printing, pulp and paper, and petroleum and basic chemical, those are having a less than 8%. So they are, even though overall industry says the 13%, so you can see majority of the industries are below the 13%. So some of the subsectors are having a greater problem of attracting new generation because it's not up to the manufacturing industry level, even it's below that. So, and we can see the some of the sectors are little attractive than food product is the one of the sector which is 17%. So it's attracting that overall manufacturing industry figure. So it's, they are somewhere above. And wood products and the furniture and other manufacturers, there can be a trend on that. So when we having a strategizing, when we are going to strategize, we have to think about in subsector level to strategize the issues, because currently all the studies are strategizing and researching overall manufacturing industry level, not in the subsector level. So my highlight is, at the same time, you can see that the baby boomers, they are higher than the industry standard. So textile is having a 20% and printing is having a 16% and pulp is having a 15%. So among the industries, this composition is getting worse. So need to have a strategies on specifically, subsector level strategies are really important, and subsector level understanding of the barriers also very much important. So basically, so it says that the we have to think about gender and generation. So when it goes to culture diversity or ethnicity, so ethnicity is categorized by ABS about the geographical location of birth. So it's not your citizenship, it's a birth. Where did you birth? Where did you birth? So Oceania includes those born in Australia, New Zealand, and Pacific Island nations. All others are in other nations. So this category is going in the place of the birth, which I want to highlight it because most of the time people think that okay, if you are having a permanent residency or if you are having a citizenship, so you are belong to that ethnicity. No, it's not, because your roots are being in a different ethnicity. So your culture is coming from the different, even though you are a permanent resident or citizenship. So ethnic distribution that can see agriculture and mining sectors are highly dependent on local employees. So especially agriculture, mining, art and recreation. So when it's come to the manufacturing sector, it shows that the manufacturing sector is having a considerable level of migrant workers. So as I said, that the problem here we are going to discuss is, so currently we can see because initially when migrant workers comes, the easy them to find a job in the manufacturing industry, right? But long term, they are going to settle it out in the different industries. So now it's happened. So in future, in the manufacturing sector, using the right strategy to enhance the ethnic diversity is a problem. So especially in future skills, are we going to focus that the skill sets and get the migrant workers for this industry? Because now you can take the layman version of the workers for this industry, because most of the things are traditional and manual and need more kind of a labor level of skills. But if you go to the future status, so you are going to have a more kind of a technology skills and the digital skills, and also is that these migrant workers coming with those skills? That's a question mark. So that we have to think about. So finally, when it comes to the gender diversity, the manufacturing industry is predominantly male dominant. So strategies to increase the female participant have only marginally succeeded. So gender diversity varied widely across the manufacturing subsectors. Subsector strategies are really needed. Then when it comes to generation diversity, Gen Z is underrepresented in manufacturing sector, and uh, the subsectors also having a different level of attractions, and more older workers are available in the global trends. So we have to think about both these categories, how we are going to keep them in the industry to fulfill our requirement of the labor demand. Ethnic diversity, manufacturing ethnically diverse, migrant workers may not be as readily available in the future. So Industry 4.0 or 5.0, manufacturing sector need to reskill the future workforce with more digital and technical skills and recognize the importance of diverse workforce for innovations. That's in future, most of the things are going with innovation. So we have to recognize the importance of diversified workforce for innovation. We can't have the same as it is. And ensuring the more qualified workers are prepared to face future challenges. So sometimes that might be a one barrier which I'm not able to be find it from the literature, but in future of my research, I'm going to be address what are the real challenges. Explore the possibilities of aligning technology strategies with diversity strategies for successful diversity initiatives. So it's a compulsory to see that because literature says that the diversity strategies cannot be performed alone. It has to be consolidated with the another different strategies. So I have with my readings, so there's a possibility to align the technological strategies with the diversity strategies to overcome the current barriers. So finally, the way forward is manufacturing sector need to ensure access to underrepresented groups in order to address the labor shortage. So manufacturing is, because government is doing a lot of new initiatives, and they have idea to double it up the manufacturing industry and enhance the country manufacturing capabilities. So are we ready for that, fulfill the future labor demand and current labor shortage as well? So only way is to be ensuring the underrepresented groups, how we are going to attract and retain them. Implement strategies to attract and retain younger workers. So especially younger workers are looking for, as I said, that there's some casual jobs and the part-time jobs and the flexible jobs and the attractive jobs. So those kind of things can we provide through the manufacturing. That's more important. Develop safe job opportunities for older workers. As I said, that the older workers, we have to have a ergonomic support and the safety support to keep them attract. Implement gender strategies that are targeted at the subsector level. So we have to have a different kind of a subsector level strategies to address the issues. Explore alternative approaches to job design and employment, such as increased part-time opportunities. These are one of the way we can think about that without strictly say that no, we have the permanent job, that's very good. So we have to think about that, how the market is behaving, how the industry is behaving, so how the young generations are behaving. Especially we have to think about the alpha generation as well when they are coming to the industry within a couple of years. Utilize the technology to build up the inclusive culture, overcome diversity barriers. So that's very, very important thing. Inclusive culture, the manufacturing industry and other industries, most of the industries try to get the inclusive culture, but to get this inclusive culture and the different kind of HR strategies, it's failed due to isolately performing. So they need to have a blend with the technology and find it out what are the best way to be. So collaborative robots might be a very good solution, which all of us are doing research on that. So I believe that after you did see these data, so there are some of the things us to see that, okay, how we can contribute our all different kind of researchers focus on the diversity as well. So my objective is to be open it up uh, your insights when you are doing the research, just to think about that, what are the future challenges what we are having. Thank you very much, and open for questions. anyone is having a question, any clarity?
I was wondering about the effect of geography, that we know some of the, well, at least the generational factors are correlated with geography. And I wondered whether it's the availability of other opportunities within a local area that plays some part in determining what choices older workers make versus younger workers. I agree with you about full-time and part-time being important, but geography as well.
Yeah, I'm agreed with that, because my next step is to be finding out what is the real barriers on Gen Zs, and so I'm going to have a focus group to be finding out the barriers on Gen Zs and the elderly workforce as well as women. So there might be a possibility. That's one of the reasons. So, but it's not specifically nothing for the moment. The existing researchers has not highlighted that. But with my readings, I think that's the area. One of the area I'm going to focus on that in my groups to be find it out is that the real barrier.
Yeah, I think also that came to mind for me just looking at the differences in the generational profile of subsectors. And I just wondered whether the location of the employment was different in subsectors, and that therefore had a relationship with how attractive these job opportunities were for different generations. But thank you. I really enjoyed your talk.
Thank you very much. Good point to think about. Thank you very much.
It looks like there are some things in the chat.
Yeah, thank you, Penny. Can you comment on the different way? So Penny has asked to comment on cobots and technology might change the diversity in manufacturing. As I said that, the current researchers says that the some of the diversity barriers in work-life balance and ergonomic issues and those kind of things has highlighted that women to enter into the sector and the young people to enter into the sector. So basically, my readings up to now shows that the cobots also going to provide that the ergonomic solutions and especially the cognitive ergonomic, as well as physical ergonomic support and the safety support specifically, as well as the simplify the processes and things. So sometimes because of you need to have a physical ergonomic requirement, you are not able to recruit. Sometimes recruitment process is having some bias because of the requirement and the perceptions as well. So there are huge perception involved over there. So cobots intervention, I think, for my research is going to focus on that, how cobots going to be influenced on these barriers. So that's why I just want to have a clear understanding about the diversity. So I believe that the cobots can have a impact on that, but I don't know it's a positive impact or negative impact, because when the technology intervention, sometimes the cognitive part is going to be a question. So throughout my research journey, so I'm going to find it out what the possibilities of existing cobots features, interventions, and the process improvements. How can open it up the minimize these barriers and open it up the pipeline of the talents to get into that. So that's the future of my study going to be. So any other questions?
Well, you brought up that there are differences between subsectors. So could you maybe expand on what you just said related to different subsectors in manufacturing?
Yeah. So what I found is here, because all the literature says that the high level. So, but when I analyze is that, so these 16 subsector behavior is different. So barriers are different. Barriers might be different, and the representation composition is totally different. So there is a way you have to find it out each and every sector. As an example, if you get the food manufacturing sector, can see that a lot of developments are going on because everybody is focused on the food manufacturing sector after the COVID. So everyone is focusing on that, and sometimes we have missed some of the important sectors, subsectors. Those are small subsectors, but very important contribution to the economy. So those subsectors we have not given priority for research. So we have only stick to the all the data comes from the food industry and the wood and the major subsectors. Out of 16, the 3 or 4 sectors we are giving always the priority on developing on that. So my opinion is my finding is that each and every subsector is having have a different kind of a barriers, which I have not yet found because this is my next step is, if we can find that, our strategy should be aligned with that. So for the moment, my understanding is the high level strategy is not able to be implemented in each and every sector. It's not going to be worked out. So even when with our cohort research, so when we are working with industries, so we have to see our strategies industry specific, not as a whole manufacturing sector. So that's why my highlight is, if we are not able to be address the subsector level, so our problem is not going to be sorted out as industry. So we are going to be stagnating somewhere. So that's why the 2006 to 2021, right? All 15 years, so many initiatives goes on, but still the diversity is the same level, very slow growth. So how we can do a very different kind of a thing, because future, we need to have a more skills. That's no doubt at all. Because the way we are enhancing the technological strategies, we need to have a more strategies. So more skills. To get that, we have to open it up the diversity pipeline. Otherwise we are going to struggle. We have a technology, but there's no people to work on that. That might be a problem.
Thank you.
All good.
Perhaps maybe if I can add to that last point, Stina, I think one of Akash's key points here is that manufacturing, unlike other industries, is extremely diverse in the type of jobs and the type of work that is completed at subsector level. Whereas, let's take retail, for example. While there are different types of retailers, there are similarities in the types of jobs that exist. Whereas if we look at this subsector of manufacturing, the types of jobs are very different. And so that just gender diversity alone is very different based on those types of jobs. So the implementation of cobots will change, or technology in general will change how jobs are done. That may have positive or it may have negative impacts. So for example, cobots in a sector that has high levels representation of women, if certain technologies are introduced in that area that eliminates jobs, then it has a negative effect on kind of the overall diversity factor. But it might actually enhance jobs to enable more women to participate in other sectors. So there is, I think Akash's main point here, correct me if I'm wrong, Akash, is that, today there's a lot of strategies that are being implemented or across manufacturing at a sector-wide hold, especially driven from different governments, state, federal government level, about this is how we have to address manufacturing, but they'll only be effective if they're adjusted to the nuances of the individual subsectors, because their diversity needs are very, very different. Is that fair to say, Akash?
Yes, just to add something on Penny, after COVID, there are different HR practices comes out, work from home, flexible work hours, and a lot of different kind of practices as well, which unable to practice in the manufacturing sector because of the nature of the jobs. So the technology intervention, especially the cobot intervention and the high level technology intervention, might be given some kind of a chance, HR to be think about that, okay, how we can attract the people through those kind of strategies. Currently, with the current traditional manufacturing, some of the strategies came out after the COVID-19. So still we are not able to be grabbing because our processes are in some stick to some traditional ways and tradition. So it's going to be a very big jump next couple of years with the technological intervention, which can be give some sort of a room for HR professionals to think about how they are going to change their care strategies to address the diversity issues. So that's the one of the main point which I want to highlight it, because strategies has to be changed according to technological strategies, and technology intervention will give the biggest support for HR to rethink about that and some of the things. All good. I think all good. Thank you very much for all your participation, and thanks for the questions as well.